For any further ado, I'll call the meeting to order. Appreciate everyone being here. Madam Clerk, for the record, note that all members of the Dickenson County Coal and Gas Road Improvement Committee are here, including Mr. Barton, including, I believe we have guest Mr. Kendrick here to give us some advice and information. So before we begin, though, let's go together for a brief word of prayer here before we begin. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day here in Dickenson County. I thank you for the individuals that are here deliberating the county's business. I ask for your hand and guidance over this meeting as we make decisions for the future and betterment of the county that we all love and is dear to us. I ask a special blessing on each household represented. I ask you to continue to be with anyone in our county that's sick or hurting. Dear Lord, I ask you just to be with them and give them comfort. Please lead, guide, and protect us in everything that we do. Please, again, be with our law enforcement, military men and women abroad and at home. And just please keep us all safe. And I hope that whatever we do here is ultimately pleasing to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance if you don't care. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I know these meetings are typically a lot more informal, but I like to start any meeting that way. But to the members, voting members, Mr. Blevins, Mr. Newberry, Mr. Sumter, is there any questions or additions to the agenda? If there's not any modifications to the agenda, then we would need a motion probably to approve the agenda to move forward.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Sumter. I would maybe have one suggestion, if we could maybe do it like a 3A, maybe a old business, new business section, just so we could maybe discuss the status of a few projects since we got all the people in the room. Would that be okay to do?
I'd like to add that, yes.
Okay, so let's, my suggestion, Mr. Newberry, if you would make the motion, if it's okay for Mr. Sumter to withdraw his motion to add 3A and B, old business and new business. So we would have 3 Ag Center, then 3A, old business, 3B, new business.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. So then we have 3A, 3B added, and then we'll need a motion to approve the agenda with those additions.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Then that'll take us to item 2, approval of minutes from our last meeting, which hard to believe it's been that long ago, back in October. Are there any issues or concerns? Larry or Teresa, or do y'all know of anything we need to look at there? If there's not any issues or concerns, entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve them.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. And that brings us to item number 3, our Ag Center Road project funding. If it's okay with the committee, I'd like to have Mr. Mullins brought up real quickly. If you would like to come, I know there's been no obviously stauncher advocate for this project than Mr. Mullins. It's been on my radar since being sworn in, and I know we have several of his other advocates here, but if Brad, I don't know how much Mr. Blevins or Mr. Newberry or Mr. Sumster have heard about this, but I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you just want to give a brief elaboration on why this means so much and why you think it's important. And
all right, thank you very much for allowing it. Of course, the center's been there since 2009. Lehman was an integral part when we were getting the center. Give a little bit of history on it. Kind of the initial reason that we started with the project was with VQA, Virginia Quality Assured Feeder Cattle, and some of the feeder cattle producers in the counties, Wise, Dickenson County. It was a joint project between the two counties. we needed a facility where we could bring the cattle in, weigh them. There's certified scales there. And it was a tremendous success. We ended up getting some money from VCTA, and the Virginia Tobacco Commission, put most of the money into that facility up there, and it's only grown from there. We have held in excess of 50 horse and tack sales up there. Farm Bureau uses it, Lonesome Pine Beekeepers uses it, the Coalfield Sheep Association uses it, the Coalfield Beef Cattle Association uses it, Cumberland Pine Mountain Trail Riders uses it, 4-H uses it. We've had agriculture awareness days for all the fourth graders in the county, utilizes that facility. It's utilized a tremendous amount. We've got a no-till seeder that's housed there. We've got lime spreaders that are housed there that our citizens in these coalfield counties can utilize. So they're there, and we're having to go up there constantly to get those and rent them out. Smack Falls, the construction company uses it for some of their safety meetings that they use the educational buildings. Girl Scouts use it. The facility has never been denied for any kind of educational purposes within any of these counties. We've never allowed any baby showers and things of that nature to be used up there, but last year we had the first ever Coalfield sheep sale. We generated about $50-some thousand. We had producers from 9 different states that came there and bought sheep. Tremendous success, and the producers from our locality was the ones that was selling those sheep. We've had a bred heifer sale there at the facility. Anybody that's been there and seen it, it's a tremendous asset and could be utilized even more. We had an agreement with the VDOT a few years back that they were using the upper portion of the property as a brush, I guess, collection point, and then they were going up and chipping it, and at that time, VDOT was maintaining the road. And then when that ceased, then it just went back to pretty rough shape if you've been up there in the last little bit. We had a regional sheep meeting up there about 3 weeks ago, and it was pretty rough, you know, getting in there from the main road and getting school buses and things up there of that nature. It's pretty tough. And when we had the horse and tack sales, you know, pulling trailers in there, and it's last year for the sheep sale, Mr. Barton really helped us out. I mean, we got the county's grader to go in there and kind of straighten things up, you know, just to kind of make it presentable for the sale. But it would be I think it could even be utilized more than what it is if our road was in good shape and so forth like that. So I'll take any questions. I didn't want to get too elaborate, but I wanted to give you a little bit of history on the facility. If you got any questions, I'll try to address them.
Did the facility get any proceeds from the sheep sale? How does that work?
The only thing that we do on the sheep sale is we just made enough money to pay the people that put it on, Jeff.
Okay, and that's your objective?
Yeah, I mean, we ain't really done anything for profit. Same way with the horse and tack sales. I mean, we just kind of, you know, tried to, just something for our citizens to,
Okay.
It ain't been a money-making operation.
Okay.
And we just basically charged enough on the sheep sale to pay the auctioneer, you know, and to kind of cover the expenses of doing the sale. Because we did have some, you know, he clerked the sale, he wrote the checks and everything like that, so we had to pay him just to put the sale on. And so we didn't make any money.
Understand, yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Brad, I appreciate it. Dana, would you like to elaborate a little bit on your board's ideas?
Sure, I'd love to. I think as we continue to move forward with the county with our new strategic plan that the Board of Supervisors and the IDA both adopted in March of 2022, one of the big components of that is how to continue to diversify the economy in Dickenson County due to the struggling coal economy that we had experienced in previous years. And just in in the short period of time that I've been here and working with Mr. Mullins, and I've been to the Ag Center, and I've talked to a lot of the folks that utilize it, as Brad and I have talked, the center is utilized and is known by those in the county who are currently in the agricultural, in that market. However, we believe that by presenting the facility better, by having the road paved, by really doing some like direct marketing efforts to the community, that we may be able to get some folks interested and involved in the agricultural community that may not have been already. For example, I mean, this is kind of a small example, but from this job I learned about the Beekeepers Association, and now my husband and daughter yesterday were in their bee suits outside trying to work with their bees, in the yard. But the point being is seeing how are we able to utilize this facility that we have to further allow folks to have some other opportunity in the county. I think that by utilizing, the fact that we didn't make any money on it, but that's kind of the point, right, is to be able to provide another resource that is closer for our farmers to be able to actually have a sustainable business model. So, that's really our intention right now, is to enhance what we already have. I plan to work with Mr. Mullins in marketing it. Hopefully everybody has seen a little bit more things going on as far as the Ag Center. We had a great front page spread last week. So, we believe that it is an asset, and the more that we emphasize that and are able to add new events, we think that it will be very well received within that community.
And I think you had received a couple of letters of support, maybe from the Soil and Water Authority or Board.
I did, yes, and I also from the IDA. There was support from the IDA, of course, since the IDA does manage with the help of the Coalfield Cattle Association. I know there's some words in there that I forgot, I'm sorry. I have to look it up every single time. But anyway, and from the need for the road to be paved, yes.
Larry, I think it would benefit our members on this side of the table. Could you tell us a little bit where we stand fiscally?
Sure, as
in
far
our
as
fund
in
now?
looking at this on the different options that we have for funding, of course, at one time this was considered doing AML funding through the abandoned mine land funds. And, speaking with those folks down at Big Stone on that, it looks like it would, be a good potential project for that. We have a funding round that closes actually this week. We're finishing up an application right now for another project in the Haysai area to develop the Haysai High School lot. And, we were told to put our best application in, only one application. And we have a potential application for a future AML project up there to expand the facility, to perhaps provide a meat processing facility or something to that tune that would kind of go hand in hand with the folks that are using the center right now. And so this would put us a step ahead on that, because if we done the AML funding, right now we're looking at 2 to 3 years to get out to be able to start construction before we can do any future phases. So we have a healthy fund balance right now in our coal and gas road improvement fund. Through recent years, with severance being up for the past 2 years, we've kind of added to that balance that's going in. We've got somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10 million there that we can work with. So I do think this would be a good use of funds and benefit many people in the county. Also fiscally, I will mention that Wise County is, when the center was first built, they provided funding every year, as did Dickenson County. They've not funded for several years, but through the help of Mr. Mullins, Ms. Cronkite, and the others that have worked together on this, they are starting to fund again this year. Because, we do have Wise County folks, the president of the Cattlemen's Association, actually a Wise County resident. So Wise and Dickenson both use this. It's right on the border, so it benefits not only Dickenson but Wise as well.
What kind of funding is that from Wise?
We're going to be getting $9,500 annually, and Dickenson County is also matching that $9,500. So that'll go into a fund that'll be used for capital improvements or different things that kind of have been put on the back burner for some time as improvements up there.
Josh, I might ought to mention to you and Jeff, you don't know it, I'm on the IDA board, so I voted for them to sit along with the rest of us ended up here. I just wanted to make that known to everybody.
Joey, go ahead.
Mr. Kendrick may also be able to provide if there's any questions as far as the actual project itself, we met earlier and he has some insight and information he may be able to.
And you want to tell us about it, Lehman?
Well,
Sort of the,
just to explain what we're talking about, this Carl Jesse Lane takes off of 83 right there in the gap. And we're talking about basically doing the road from Route 83 to the top of the hill where you turn left-handed out to the Ag Center, and getting that eventually taken into the state system. And from that point on down to the Ag Center itself, we would improve and pave that, but it would not become part of the state system. There is an existing right-of-way, existing easement, I guess I should say, from 83 up to the center. We probably would have to go back, and that property is owned by Don McFall or one of his companies, so we'd have to go back to them, I think, just like we did on Reader's Lane, Joey, and
Expand the.
get that a little more formalized.
yeah,
I assume Dana gave you the cost estimate
yes.
here. That is the best guess that we come up with right now, but
Those numbers are from spring
construction
to
costs are
March.
literally crazy. I was telling Joey a little bit earlier, we've laid hundreds of miles of water line in this, 4-inch water line in this county for $12, $14 a foot. Last bid we got a week and a half ago, the low bid was 45, next bid up was 53.
Whoa.
So you see what we're up
Thanks,
against.
Joe Biden.
And plus, there's a real shortage of contractors, and then when you get into asphalt, then, you know, the list of available contractors gets even shorter. So, you know, that's obviously a concern, so.
Well, bottom line is, just to cut to the chase, we're all familiar with this roadway, I think. At least me and like Larry, for instance, which I know Larry's not on the committee, but his opinion, you know, weighs a lot, and obviously Dana's as well, but, you know, we've got the money. To me, I think it's a worthwhile project. We've got people that use it, want to see it grow. That includes me in that group, and so I'm prepared to vote yes on it.
Well,
I don't really have any other questions myself. I don't know if you gentlemen do.
Well, I do have one, on the cost estimate there on non-VDOT section, it's $126,000. Does that is that a potential for the VDOT to take over to also?
I don't think that we will be able to get the width that we need, Jeff, especially when you turn off of the top going down to the center. I mean,
You don't foresee this ever being a VDOT road then?
From the top down to the center?
Down to it.
Down to the center. I mean, it's.
Yeah, it would have to be, it'd have to meet certain geometrics and also have that 40-foot width. The other thing is there's public benefit requirements that have to do this as like a rural addition. And that's how I would see this moving forward is the improvements can be made, and then once it's deemed that we've got the adequate right-of-way and that it meets the public benefit requirement, then it can be added as a no-cost rural addition to the state system. But it would be for the limits that Lehman's indicated here, going from 83 up to basically where it splits off to there.
At this time?
Yeah.
How hard would that be once we invest this? Because I think obviously, I mean, I don't think it affects our decision one way or the other, but we would love to see that encompassed in the VDOT system and not the county maintained. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, it would be,
The part that's Carl Jesse.
yeah, the part for Carl Jesse, it's just a matter of, you don't happen to know what our right-of-way or the easement situation is on that piece?
Remember, I'm sure it's at least 40, it may be 60, Joey, so I don't think,
Right.
if Mr. McFall is agreeable to whatever we need to do to get that formalized,
So right now, it's an easement, though, not necessarily a
right,
deed.
it's not dedicated, it's not
Okay.
dedicated public right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you spoke directly to him, Lehman?
have not. that's really one of the first things we got to do. Several years ago, this has been bandied around for a long time, he was agreeable, but, you know, it's been several years, so.
I had spoke to him, Mr. Newberry, and I think, of course, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he would be agreeable, because he owns property up there too.
Yeah.
And he's told me a few times that he'd do whatever we need to do to make it happen, so. But I haven't got that right or anything.
Should we make that move before we have a formal vote on it, Joe?
It contingent upon that.
Because, I mean, here's the situation. What's the chances and how soon would it, say everything fell in place?
Yeah.
How soon would VDOT move on this piece of road?
It's really dependent on the county, because the right-of-way, the county guarantees a 40-foot right-of-way to VDOT for us to accept it in. So that's really, it would be a matter of getting the property.
Okay,
deeded.
say all that's, all that's taken care of.
Yeah.
How long would it be before VDOT would move on taking it over?
If these improvements were made and that was done, it would just be the amount of time that would take to process it. So it would have to go through the addition assembly or the rural addition process approved through the CTB. It's a matter of a couple of months. But we just have to have everything that we need to submit that.
Is that a formal agreement between the county and you all, or just?
It's just a process that VDOT has for adding new roads into the system. So they have to meet certain criteria. Rural additions, there's it has to have been in use for at least 20 years by the public. There has to be a 40-foot right-of-way, and it has to meet a public benefit.
Okay.
That's kind of the basics of that.
Well, that fits that criteria. Now, Lehman,
Right.
do you think there's 40 foot there that it's okay?
I think that's what I'm thinking, Jeff. It's been a long time since I've looked at that, but
Okay.
I think that's what we kind of had in mind.
He's saying 40, you mentioned 60.
We may have as much as a 60.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
I think it's either one or the other, but it's like I said, it's been a long time since I've looked at it.
But as long as we got 40,
Yeah.
that would meet one of the criteria.
Joy, will this follow the same procedure as Rita's Lane?
There's two methods of you could follow SSAR. It still has to meet the same public benefit requirement. The difference being the 20 years. Like a rural addition is only eligible if it's been open to public usage for 20 years. If it hasn't been, then your option is to go through the SSAR process. Now, the Ag Center's been in use since 2009, so in theory, you could just wait a few years and then add it when it's eligible and just do it as a no-cost rural addition. That would probably be the least expensive and easiest way to do that. It would be, the county would be responsible between now and whatever.
If we do it like Rita's Lane,
But if you did it like Rita's Lane, we could do it through the SSAR process. Once again, it's that public benefit requirement that we have to submit it in there to review it, make sure it's good. So,
Well, is that a problem?
I don't think so. There's at least one home, and usually there has to be 3 homes, or it's a combination of homes and I think the Ag Center would be a qualifying
Public benefit.
public, benefit. It's usually a matter of what that
Well,
entity is.
I guess, Jeff, how I'm looking at it, bottom line is the county's maintaining it now anyway. So either we can continue to maintain a rocky, bumpy road that nobody wants to drive on, or we can pave it. I can't, and pray that we can get VDOT to incorporate it, because VDOT's not going to incorporate it as it is. Obviously, it doesn't appear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I just don't want to saddle the county with something from here on to keep up.
Well, we're keeping it up. Well, either way, we're gonna keep it up.
Well, it'd be a little different there with I mean, once you get that, you're gonna have a guardrail issue too.
What do you think,
Is
Larry?
that just on Carl Jesse?
Do what?
That's guardrail part is just on Carl Jesse, isn't it? I believe by looking at the estimate.
There's 3 households
And
up there.
Joey, I might mention also,
There's
I
3
understand
houses? Okay.
there's a couple homes beyond the gap that is served also,
Okay, yeah.
you know, beyond where the
Right.
road would terminate.
So that meets that criteria.
Yeah, and that's where I'm saying, if if it's prior to the ag center, it was used to access that many homes, I mean, or it was used to access homes and it's been open to the public, then that's the 20-year rule.
From what I know about it, it would meet that criterion.
I think so too.
And I don't know about the right-of-way pieces,
Yeah.
as I don't know about the measurements, but,
Yeah.
I mean, Larry, from a big picture, county perspective, I mean, obviously, I'm coming off and everything, you know, you're gonna be around and this is all your future, your county. I mean, what do you think about this project?
I think
In the
it's a good
scope
project,
of-
I think, as we look at, trying to benefit the future of our county, economically and trying to diversify into the agricultural segment. I understand Jeff's concerns, when you talk about maintenance on this, we're getting into snow removal and things like that on a road like this we're gonna look at, but I think that between those two programs, hopefully we can get that incorporated. At least that upper part, the lower part, getting down to the center won't be as big a deal to maintain as the main road, so. But I do think it'd be a big benefit to the county, so.
So logistically, so this committee, assuming without knowing we approve this money to appropriate this money for this project, will it be the Dickenson County Board of Supervisors actually soliciting bids or,
Well,
I mean, and overseeing the project?
It'll go from here, it'll go from co-road to, of course, the full board, for y'all to approve it, the full board, and once that happens, we can, we're gonna be responsible for construction, or we may wanna hand it off to the IDA to, assume construction for us.
And are we prepared for that either way?
Yes, we
Or-
talked about
okay,
that this
very
morning.
good. No.
Dana, myself, and Lehman talked about the logistics on how we could possibly do that, so,
So we feel comfortable taking this on?
yes.
I've got one question. I've heard, I don't remember where in this process, that, something about, VDOT still having the right of way to the old highway up there, something having to be changed.
I don't know, it's a good question, I haven't heard anything, y'all know anything about that?
Remember where I
Old
heard
road?
that, something about the old road that crossed the
That was
mountain?
in relation to when we were tossing
Oh.
around the idea of the facility, the meat processing facility
Oh,
up
okay.
at the top
Okay.
of the,
Yeah, that's right, that is
Yeah,
correct, we have that right-of-way issue up there.
I
where
couldn't
we
remember, I
built-
just remember
That's correct.
something about that right of way issue.
Yeah, and that's why we're waiting till the next round of AMLR to hopefully apply for that, and we can get that right away resolved, so.
next on our list.
Well, if it folds into, VDOT taking it over, within what would that be, 7 years?
6 years from now,
Even if we didn't go into, what was that other acronym you used?
The SSAR.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the two processes there. SSAR would be more immediate. It's a little bit more, well, we did it with Rita's Lane as the same process as Rita's Lane. But basically what's involved there is just coordination with VDOT. There's a little bit more fees involved with that to the county and stuff because we have inspection and things that occur with that. The rural addition process is more straightforward and doesn't follow that same process, so
You got any feel for how much the fees would be, Lehman?
Engineering fees,
the inspection fees,
I can't remember on Reader's Lane, it wasn't a tremendous amount, but, we also would have to hire a, design firm to design the road. VDOT has to approve the design. So, that SSAR process is, not super quick.
yeah.
I mean, it does take time
Nothing is.
to work that through. I can't remember on Reader's Lane, but we were a good while jumping through all the hoops on that one.
So I guess the question is, do we want to go that route, or do we want to wait to 7 years and maybe just let them fold it in?
Well, and I was basing that on 2009. If there's been earlier public usage of it going back further, then it may be eligible for.
I think certainly there has been.
The house has been up there before 2009?
Yeah, those houses.
I would think so.
Oh, yeah, well before.
Yeah.
Okay, so it should meet the public
If we go
use.
rural addition, guys, what do we need to, do we just need to make sure we comply with
Deeded right-of-way.
geometrics? or-
Well, the deeded right of ways.
And the right of way?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but just the geometrics, and the reason I ask is we're gonna run into the same thing out there at the rehab project, don't we?
Right. Yeah, well, we can discuss the rehab one.
Yeah.
That one
I mean,
may be a
it's
little
gonna be
bit-
the same process.
Similar, but the public benefit's what I'm worried about there.
Right.
I don't know how that, company is set up, whether it'll be qualify for a public benefit. This does. I don't see much issue here. It's not a company and benefiting profitably, or, or even that's the stuff that, it's pretty straightforward when you have 3 homes, the way it's worded in those, it's a little less clear whenever you're dealing with for-profit companies or businesses and stuff.
Larry, are you comfortable with it?
Question, do you have to have 3 homes for 20 years? Because I'm not,
It just has to be open to the public, and then it has to have 3 homes currently served at the time that it's accepted.
I wouldn't doubt if that meets that.
I think it
Right
does.
there, right now.
I'd be surprised, I bet it's really close.
Yeah.
I would imagine those
Yeah.
existing homes, I think maybe, I know Don put a trailer in up there, which wouldn't have been 20 years, but I think those homes on beyond the top of the hill, I expect to have been there a lot longer than 20 years.
For a good while, yeah,
Yeah.
They've been out there since before the strip, the last time.
yeah.
And so in that case, the county would do the project, that we would, and we can even come out and take a look at it if you want during the construction and stuff. Once it's completed and the dedicated right-of-way is there, then VDOT can simply add that in as a no-cost rural addition. Basically, the
Okay.
improvements have already
Sounds
been
good.
made by the county to bring it up to standard, and then we're just
That makes
processing
sense,
it
yeah.
in to bring it into the system.
And Joe, by doing it that way, the total project costs would be much less, right? Because you're not having to do the design.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you're going, it's similar to the cost savings that we, as VDOT, if we're doing like a rural rustic road on an unpaved road that qualifies, that's in VDOT system, we don't do all of the geometric upgrades and to bring it up to a certain standard. It's minimal improvements on existing grade to bring it up to a better roadway, but not, a full standard design.
And about to say, this cost estimate just allows a lump sum 30% for what they're calling related and soft costs, which would include the inspection. So there would be a considerable savings if you went with the rural addition, and didn't have to prepare a whole set of plans and go that route.
Yeah.
And be a lot quicker. I
Yeah.
mean,
And Lehman, based upon the estimate that we have, this was done in March of this year. I think we had spoke with one of the contractors. What do you think this is a reasonable cost, or should we add, to it just for sake of?
That's a tough
That's a
question.
good question.
Probably looking at next spring before
Well,
construction will start, probably.
I was thinking
Even right
earlier,
now.
I'm sure everybody's heard the old story about George Washington throwing a silver dollar across the Potomac River. He couldn't do that today because the dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. And that is so true in the construction business. I mean, it's just crazy right now.
Yeah.
So,
So even you think if this, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you don't even think we'd start this till spring, no matter what?
I mean, I'd love to see it happen, but I don't know about availability of contractors and what preliminary engineering. I mean, what's your thoughts, Lehman or Joey, or somebody on timeline on a project like this? If we got it approved today and, at our meeting in July, the board approves it, then how soon before we go out to bid on this?
Well, it'd be up to us, though, wouldn't it? I mean, we bid it.
Yeah.
Well, we can bid it out, but I'm saying as far as to be ready, I mean, is there any other preliminary steps we gotta work out the right of way with Mr. McFall? And you've got a window through, late October or early November to best on the asphalt plant, so.
That's why I was just wondering. But back to probably the more important question, the money. I mean, you think we should appropriate more?
Well, my thought is, if you've got the funds, if you appropriate them, that doesn't say we're going to.
We'll have to spend them, right.
But it may avoid, a holdup later on.
Coming back and reappropriate additional funds.
I'd say we probably ought to do 7, just to be safe.
Be safe. I don't think it costs that, but that would cover us if it did.
What do you think?
I think between now and the time we get it done, it's gonna go increase quite a bit.
Yeah,
Well, I think
I'm ready.
the reason I kind of was asking about how we were going to actually get it done is I don't want us holding the hat. I mean, I'd like to, once this is approved, I'd like to get this bid out. Let's move this thing. If it's up to me,
Yeah.
Okay, well, so probably, maybe need a motion up to 700.
It covers for sure.
I'll let AC make it.
I do want to say, on a serious note here, very serious. Of course, Brad and Kenny and Ms. Dotson and Mr. Childers were at our last board meeting, and we got into sort of the weeds, if you will, or complexities of approving a project like this. So it's not like the Board of Supervisors, the 5 members, and Mr. Barton, we don't have, the county doesn't have road money. The road money comes through here. And this road money that we have, fortunately, is in pretty good shape due to gas and coal severance and those prices being up, which we all know in this room and all of our families, these 2 guys beside me more than anybody know how cyclical that can be. So it can be good times and it can be hard times. So in the good times, we try to be responsible, or at least this committee and our board certainly. And of course, I'm biased politician hat, but we've been very responsible stewards of our money in a good time here so that we may not have to suffer as much when we all know the bad time will come. So anyway, the hard part about making these kinds of significant decisions are this money goes over a 350-foot square mile county. So when you take $500,000 to now maybe $750,000 of the whole amount of money, that's a serious decision to be made. And one, again, having your politician hat on, your board of supervisor hat on, that not the whole county's going to be happy with. They're going to say, well, why don't we get $700,000 down here or over here or up here? And that's a decision or a conversation that I'm sure I'll be stuck with somebody wondering, why did we spend this amount of money up here? But you got to make decisions, and this is a good project. This is a beautiful facility. There's wonderful people running it. It's got a great plan moving forward for our children, for our families, for our agricultural families, and so I'm for it, and I'm sure there'll be maybe some questions asked, but we'll deal with that. And I hope that the people that have advocated for this so long could at least maybe understand why maybe it's took a little longer to get this done than maybe we all or they would want, but that's part of the deal. And I hope you do understand it. Do y'all agree with? Yeah, I know you all ain't elected, so it's not as hard to sort of deal with, but us.
You make a very good point. That's what we're going to see. Unfortunately,
We still
But
get
that's-
some comment too, but when I was asked to be on these things, it was to help the county, and I think this is something that will help the whole county.
So we'll wait on Mr. Sumter to get back before he had to step out.
Guys, I just want to make a comment that Scarlett Mullins was IDA director whenever we were doing this, and the Tobacco Commission that came and they toured the Ag Center, they've always made the comment that they felt like that was one of the best projects that they ever did with some of the tobacco monies, because it helped just the average people. They remodeled a lot of doctor's offices and everything with that money, but this facility just the average folks could utilize it, the children could utilize it. I mean, it was open to the public, and they felt like that was one of the best projects that they ever put some of the tobacco money into. They made that comment to us up there when they toured it. And I feel the same way. I mean, that, we have not done a great job, and I take responsibility for that. Like Dana said earlier, the horse folks and the cattle folks, if you're in those groups and the beekeepers, you know what the facility is, but we've not done a great job telling our story. And maybe with Dana's help, you know, getting a little more publicity in the papers and so forth, but we've not done a great job of telling, you know, telling our story of what's going on up there. It's kind of one of those deals, you're involved in it and you're doing it, but you just do from one project to the next. I haven't spent a whole lot of time. It's hard, you know, when you're doing the programs, it's hard to publicize it and do that type of stuff too. But I just wanted to tell you that the Tobacco Commission was super excited about the project and how it's helped just the average folks, and that was the intention of that money, was to go back to the people that were trying to do something besides grow tobacco. And, but I was in those sessions when we were going and trying to get the money, and it was unbelievable how much of that money went to not people that were producing tobacco. But I just want to let you know that.
Were there any motions?
I make a motion, we'll go ahead and appropriate them the money up to $700,000 and get this going.
So, Madam Clerk, Mr. Blevins' motion will be to appropriate up to $700,000 in pursuit of the cost estimate presented to us for the Cole Road Ag Center road improvement. So is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Got her done, Mr. Mullins. And I would say, Mr. Sumter, Mr. Newberry, Mr. Blevins, this was not necessarily a regular meeting, so we kind of special called this to get this done for y'all. So appreciate these fellers for getting this organized. So that brings us down to old business. Joey, Allen, I know you, and poor old Wade's been in our meetings, and I always feel so sorry for him. Priest Fork, is there anything that I can tell those people, and Peggy, that's Peggy's district, but I was up in there a lot there last week, and that place is like Afghanistan. I can't imagine Afghanistan looks any worse than it does. I mean, do we need to move any money or do something to get that thing, to get some help for those poor people up in there?
No, as far, we've taken that action previously, the board
Yeah,
has.
I know.
And so the, where we are at currently is, we are going to be utilizing our hired equipment contractor to pave that. It is they are right now trying to, like everybody, and we've talked about, everybody's trying to find people to work and stuff like that. So they're working on forming their paving crew together. Once they have that done, that project will be the first project that they go in and do the paving on.
Do you have any sort of timeline?
I don't have.
I don't have the timeline, but if it will help matters, I have told them to go ahead and as quickly as possible. Now, we're trying to wrap up our main focus of that debris cleanup this week. And, but then I've told them that I want them to go in there and start patching it with those rough spots that are in there, with all the gravel that's on there, and try to get that part taken care of.
Yeah.
And then we will pave it after that. So I feel like if we can get some significant heavy patching in there, like even pool with a motor grader, that will help.
Yeah.
You know, situation a lot.
We all, the board members, not maybe these guys, but we hear, you hear a lot of, all the time, not a lot, everyday complaint, and, but those people are legitimately upset. In my opinion, they've got legitimate gripes. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to drive through that mess.
So,
You know what I mean? And I appreciate you taking the time to answer that, but that really is a bad hollow. I mean, it's probably the worst I've seen myself.
So I would say that the paving, goal would be within you know, month of August
That would be great.
would be what my goal would be for it. Now, that's not there, but patching.
And I understand you can't hold
But
that.
patching, looking for patching, sooner rather than later.
What about the Bear Pen area? Now that's obviously my area, and it's my understanding, I've tried to reach out to Burl before I come, but it's my understanding the school bus still doesn't run up in there. Are you all aware of any
I hadn't heard much on that.
schedule to get, because I know it was severely flooded out right out a year ago. Today, actually, we're almost a 12-month mark, but
I don't have an update for that
Okay,
one on
all right.
there. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, I
If we known-
understand.
when we thought that this was gonna be what Joey has been primarily dealing with Lehman and everything with this, then.
I know,
We
and I-
really, our staff is kind of, tied up. Wade is working on a bunch of other stuff to try to accomplish a lot of these different things, and that's why he's not here today. He and Brandon both, so that's,
hey, but he's here at our board meetings and he's got his Kevlar vest on and he just takes the bullets and keeps on going.
and that's why that I send him most of the time to those meetings.
Well, we
because
appreciate it.
I know that Wade's gonna take care of it
Yep.
and is heavily involved with it there with things, so I try to get the person that's going.
We sincerely do appreciate him coming. I do. And I think all of our members do. Well, that's all the old business I have. Is there any new business? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me do this, since you're, we'll ask Wade to give you an update, email you on Bear Pen.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That'd be great.
all right, we'll ask you to do that too.
Get him to, give you
And
an
I will-
update on that Sandy Ridge project too.
I was going to mention too about, is that the 652 project? Yeah, so I saw emails going back and forth today that they're getting that one open to charges. Also the additional overlay routes that we had talked about or that were approved. We've had a lot of problems, in trying to go through our patching contract or the paving schedule contract and doing those overlays. So the approach, we're taking this different one this year and going through or our hired equipment contract to do the paving. We've actually got those two projects for the ones that were last allocated. Those are open now. So once this crew gets in here, then they can start on the Priest Fork project, and then they'll also be moving to these other ones that were identified to be doing those. And so rather than the typical timeline of where we would allocate that funding, it would basically have to go a whole nother year before it would get incorporated into the paving schedule. So hopefully this will result in being able to do those projects a little faster too. And in doing so, maybe save some money in inflation costs too. So,
And again, I know I talked about it the last time, it was in the minutes, but we had gone in this residency to zero amount of hired equipment completely. We had no resources to where that the contractor had disassembled his workforce and a lot of his equipment. And so the same contractor got that back, and, which is Glass Machinery. And now they are working, trying to be able to provide us for 4 counties the amount of resources that we need to be able to accomplish the work that we have. So they, I know that they're trying, and believe me, we're trying too, because we like to see results obtained as well. But they are having the same challenges that everybody else is, just trying to find people that are capable of running equipment and doing the things that they need to do. And so we have been, I think we now, maybe in our 4 counties, I think we have 3 crews that are doing work for us, for them, and those are small crews. And so we've got a lot to try to accomplish, but we haven't forgotten any of it, I can assure you that.
Thank you. You want to, ask that question?
No, he just answered.
Okay, all right. Question I had, is that wondering, are you gonna paint the lines across Sandy Ridge on the new paving? That might be well, on that new paving, there's no yellow line or white line. I've been asked that
No,
about 50 questions.
Well, they've been painted, but it wears off quick with all the truck traffic.
Well, I'm not sure it's even been painted on some of that new part though. Like the
Uh,
yellow
the,
line or
uh,
white line.
Steve,
That's
It's about all gone now.
That's a horrible, as we know, we just talked about, but you hear from that community up there all the time about issues, and that's a pretty legitimate place for
And,
concerns too.
We used to have a policy where that everything that was painted was retraced really every year. And we did that, you know, in all counties across the state. There has been supply issues with paint and things of that, and so they have revised that policy in recent years that the guidelines for roads with striping on them are not the same. And so a lot of roads that have been retraced in time now are not eligible to be retraced according to current policy, and where they faded off, they're not going to be retraced. We could find out, you know, specifically for the one that you're asking for, but, and then the ones that are eligible for retrace are usually not retraced every year like they were. So, Joey, can you check on that one? And
It's been a while since they did that one up there, but now it gets so foggy up there that.
And that's a concern that we brought forward to internally to our management on up above us, is that you know, we're in a mountainous terrain, and because there's traffic count now is not 500 or 1,000 like what they're going by, but it's, you know, mountainous. Can we have an exception to that because of that, the curvy roads and everything? And for the most part, we've been unsuccessful in getting that waiver from that policy.
Generally, if the traffic count's less than 500, they won't retrace it.
Is that something we could do in this committee though, if we wanted to fund something like that?
With it being an issue that it's being what qualifies and what doesn't?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
I don't think the 500 issue would be an issue up there on that road, because that, it's a continuous flow of traffic.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. We will, is it okay if we get some of these answers and then we'll get it back to
Yes,
Mr. Barton?
yeah.
And then he can
We'll share it
disperse
out.
it through you, to you?
We didn't
Okay.
want to be, I'm not trying to be unfair to you at all. It's just,
No.
like you said, we've not got together since October, and these unfortunately are the things, well, fortunately, I don't mean it that way. These are legitimate concerns that communities have,
And the thing that we hear that makes our job a little bit difficult for us, you know, being, so to speak, frontline people, is that, you know, not trying to make excuse, but I can go into Lee County, I can go into Wise, I can go
The
into
same
Scott
thing.
County, and the same question that you're asking me is, you know, is the same question that, you know, I'm getting. And then, you know, we can take it to that question to other folks, and most of the time, if they tell us, they'll look on there and they'll say, well, it's not eligible, or it's not in this year's schedule, or whatever, and we can say, you know, I've tried to learn how to have, hope this doesn't make it in minutes, I noticed everything I said in minutes. I've tried to learn how to have tears coming down my face to see if that will do any good, but it hasn't been too successful.
I've done it, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
I've done it a lot, so, actually.
But we certainly realize that there is the, that out there, and in some cases where that, if we can't retrace it, then we take a look at it, and we've been able to add a sign or two. You know, it's in some, now, real curvy roads, you know, you could probably put signs, everything, and then you've spent a lot of money there on that and everything, but I'll just say this, is that, you know, if it's, can't see in a particular curve or something like that, then we've been able to go and add a sign or two that shows the curve.
Well, the biggest problem up there is not the curves, it
Yeah.
gets so foggy, you
Yeah,
can't
I
see the road,
understand.
and when you can't see the road, you end up in somebody's yard.
And it is also, and just so to mention another related item to that, is even out on primary roads, we're not replacing pavement markers everywhere
Yeah.
with paving, that we had the
Yeah, I hadn't
reflectorized
noticed that.
pavement marking as well.
What is that now, people?
The markers, when they
The
pave over
markers,
them, they're
the-
not replacing them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The reflectors.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times we're not replacing the reflectors, either.
Yeah, they've taken that same approach with,
Yes.
if it doesn't meet a certain traffic volume threshold, then they aren't putting those back in place.
And used to, a lot of these were put into this pavement schedule when the paving is done, put a requirement to that. The pavement marking material was like the thermoplastic paint that would last a lot longer, and now it's just regular, just regular latex paint. And so, that happens a lot, like what you're describing to me. I would almost bet the last time it was painted, rather than using thermoplastic, it was using regular latex paint with the beads put on it
Probably
and
was,
faded
it didn't
out.
last very long.
Yeah,
I think on all of our secondaries, that's their practice now. If it's a secondary route, they just use latex. They don't use thermoplastic like they do on the primary routes. So.
and that's probably a cost, probably what, Joey, a difference in it, probably about 4 times as much, probably.
If not more,
Yeah.
maybe 5.
Yeah, 4 to 5 times as much, but that heavier, like it's out on the primary roads, the thicker, which those are better than tape, and tape gets plowed off in short order. I always feel like always have negative, bad news on things, but that just seems like that's reality. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I'll get it painted next week,
Well,
whatever. I don't know.
I appreciate that.
But I just appreciate it being on camera, so that way when they call me back, I'd say, well, I've had the man here, and he's given an intelligent explanation,
Am I on
and it
camera?
is what it is.
Am I on camera?
One thing I
My
want to
name's Wade
mention,
Belcher.
Ron Peters.
one thing I want to mention, I know this is a special call meeting here, but something that we might want to take up next time is some of the little small projects. I mentioned it to Larry, I've mentioned it to Josh and Lehman and AC. For instance, one that you all can understand what I'm talking about when you go out and get on 83 and go back to Wise. Right down here, look at that corner right there getting out on the main road. If you're going the other way, you can't see real well. And what I think we need to do countywide, this is just one that I've noticed here that can be fixed very easily. It's probably still on your all's right. It's would be contained in your right of way, and without much construction at all, probably could be done in a day with the excavator and a truck. But little projects like that, I think we need to address across the county and see if we can get those things taken care of. Just preventative stuff for safety, and I'd like for the committee to look at that. And I'm sure some of these other people, when you're driving across the county, you can find other areas. I mean, one that got me thinking about that was the one going into Foxtown Road. You know how that was fixed? That was a huge improvement to get into there, because that was the main way getting in with the trucks for Food City, and it's just made a big difference. They come and go real smooth, and other time it was tying traffic up and stopping, and people didn't know where to come or go, and it's made a huge difference. And I think this one down here, all you have to do is look at it, and you can tell.
Yeah, and that one that you're talking about was a CSOI project, and that's what Alan just leaned over and told me we look at possibly as a CSOI project. So,
All right.
That's county safety operational improvement money.
Well, would that be covered in this committee?
No.
a different,
I mean,
funding.
you could choose to put money on there if you
Right.
wanted to at some point, but we're gonna look and see if we've got this CSOI money, Joey's referring to it, that we might
Okay.
be able to work on
All right.
this particular location.
Yeah.
That's a great
How long,
idea.
how long would it, say like that was a good project, how long would that take to get that done?
Well, the thing there here, I got going, sound like Mr. Negativity again, but the thing, if we were to walk out here today to, and said, okay, we'll do that, then, the things that would be facing us is that, first we want to check to see if we do have right of way, that we'd be on the right of way to do that. The next thing that anytime we do any kind of excavation or anything like that, we have to get our environmental people to come by and
Understand.
make sure that
Understand.
we're clear to work on there with that. So you're looking at probably anywhere from a week to a month scheduling that person to make sure that their schedule allows them to come over and do that. And then next thing is then we decide whether we're gonna do that with hired equipment or do it with ourselves, and then try and fit it in for the schedule, there with, like that. So, if I walk out of this room right now thinking I'm gonna do that, then, my goal is that if we could, and right away and everything's there, that we get it done before snow flies.
Okay, good.
Okay, but I'm just.
Work on it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's if everything
know.
falls in perfect alignment, you know, as far
Yeah,
as.
I know.
You know, that we have.
Yeah.
Cause, you know, again, right now with this contractor, then it might be that the workers that we're gonna pave on Priest Fork
Would be the same.
would be the same workers that are gonna come down here and knock off this at this intersection. And so, Mr. Evans, would it be okay if we said that we didn't pay Priest Fork in order to do,
No, no, it wouldn't.
do his project for the, okay.
No, but I mean, I know.
But these little projects, that
Yeah.
you understand what I'm, what I'm
You just
getting
kinda got
at.
to do them a little bit is, you know, I think I've used this analogy before, it's kinda like walking out your home and seeing, okay, well, boy, I'd like to have a new gutter here, and then you walk in the house and, you know, the wife says, well, I sure would like to have new countertops, and then, you know, and then the next thing is that, well, new carpet would be nice, and that kind of thing, you know, you kinda then got to try to figure out, you know, which one.
I understand.
You're going to do.
Yep.
And just kind of spread them out, and hopefully that,
And hopefully the roof doesn't have to be
Yeah.
replaced on top of that.
yeah. Hopefully a tree doesn't fall in and cave the roof in and then mess everything up. Yeah. And we've had, it's certainly affected us, you know, a couple of months ago, whenever that storm came through. It's affected, our crews have tied up quite a bit with, even though we've had contractors here trying to get debris out of the road, and that's slowed us up from doing ditching and patching and things
Oh,
of
yeah.
that nature, that we're told that we have to try to do as much of that work as possible, or otherwise the emergency money that they're gonna try to give us to cover our budget on that is going to go away after, you know, a certain date.
Always does.
Well, on a positive note, there's two people in my district that are in here that were advocating for this Ag Center project, but the three of us would agree that you all done a very good job. Your contractors cleaning up back there. Yeah, you talk about that horrendous, that was horrendous, but Kenny and Ms. Dotson, I think all agree, and then myself, we appreciate
Well, I
the
remember-
cleanup. It was
I
a mess.
remember when, back on this road, before I left and went to Abingdon, when we had the big pile of brush from other storms up there, I drove up there one day with Jackie Christian, that was assistant at that time. He took me back up there, and I walked up there, and my eyes were big as saucers. I could not believe how much, you know, and the problem that we were facing then, which affects us on a lot of the work, like we're talking about, is when we go clearing things out, is having a debris spot to take things to. That's another problem that we have in about all of our counties now, is having sites that we can go to and actually put tree debris and everything into that, you know, disposal areas like that. And it gets to be pretty costly. Then if we have to go in and use a tub grinder or chippers or whatever to do that, so.
We have been doing some
Yeah.
with burns as well, but we've got a lot of process that we have to follow to do that, but
We're talking about our regular day when we're not here, I guess, right now, and it kind of makes me want to go in and turn my retirement page.
Yeah, I bet it does. Well, same for me. It's just
But I
hard.
appreciate y'all,
But I want to be positive on that. I told Wade, I think publicly, we told him, but I was really worried about that, but it's been really good. Kenny, right, they've done a good job cleaning up back there, you think?
Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, they've done a super job, and where they load those trucks, when they get them trucks loaded, this guy, he had that leaf blower, he blew the hard top off, kept on, you didn't have to run over a bunch of trash. And they're still working. There this morning, they're hauling out from down below the Ranger strapping on out towards the Branham farm, in my opinion, is where it's all coming from. But, they done a super job of cleaning up there at my place where it was terrible. I mean, it had pulled a hard top up in some places where the trees had uprooted. And, so I got my horse back in his lot on 4th of July day evening. And it happened on the 16th day of May. And tore all the fence out, so I had to put him in the barn. But he didn't like that. But, yeah, I'm real pleased with,
Nobody's
But-
pleasing me.
only two things that I might mention. And that is, some trees that didn't blow completely down, but they're leaning almost, I won't say on the 45. And I had a beautiful web wire or woven wire fence from my mailbox all the way up to the top of the hill at the Newberry line, or in front of Johnny Val's there. And so it wiped all that out. But my insurance said, you know, I didn't have my fence specified in the insurance farm policy. So I've had, and I'm not putting a web wire fence back up, an expensive fence, because, I'm just running 2 strands of barbed wire, because if they don't cut these, if they would top these trees off about 20 foot up, they would probably stay there the rest of my life. But if I put a good fence up right now, they're gonna tear it back out again. And while they got that equipment in there, I'm just wondering, and I think it would be on the state's property, because I don't know if they got a 40 foot from the center or a 15 foot there on 611, you all might know. But if it's a 40 foot right of way, those trees are on their property, outside my fence. But when they go ahead and fall over, they're gonna tear me all to pieces again. Might fall on my little barn.
The contract and the bid that we've had for the cleanup has just been exclusively just for the fallen debris, is all we've been able. So we can look at these others and find out about them as we go forward. That same crew, that's probably been.
I know.
Has it been the state crew or the contractor crew?
I imagine it's a contracted crew, because they've got those trucks with them. It's also got a boom on them. And
We can check on the other there afterward. The contractor crew, we've actually been told within 1 or 2 more days is all we're gonna be allowed to work with them.
they asked me
Let's check on that.
one of the guys told me it's coming out. He said, "Go ahead, mark those trees," and I sprayed them with red paint.
Okay.
And the thing of it is, if they uproot and fall over, they're gonna tear the power line and the phone line out and my fence.
Okay,
But if
I
they
put a lot
get a
of
hold of it with a excavator or whatever, and they top them, they can control it and save the company and electrical company and phone company a lot of trouble, and also me.
And sometimes if it's a danger of it falling on the power, then we have to get the power company to come in and do it, because they don't allow us to work within so close to the power line.
If they pop them,
Yeah.
you know, cut them off about halfway down, there would be no danger of falling on. Okay, thank you.
All right. got that done.
All right, guys, well, I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion. Sarah,
All those, I do appreciate you all, Jeff and AC and Alan and Joey, Lehman, Dana, Larry, thank you all, Brad, and Mr. Childress and Mr. Mullins and Ms. Dodson, thank you all for coming out. I do appreciate it. So, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. We are adjourned.